Nothing out there could ever stop me from chasing after the way you love me, keeping me up 2 cups of coffee. Baby, you make me feel so lovely. I keep on running, no, I should've wanted I keep on falling right into your thought, I can't get you off my mind. So sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Oh, what a rush each time you catch me chasing after the way you love me, color my life up like confetti. Baby, you make me feel so lovely. I keep on running, no, I should've wanted I keep on falling right into your thought, I can't get you off my mind. So sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Nothing out there could ever stop me from chasing after the way you love me, keeping me up 2 cups of coffee. Baby, you make me feel so lovely. So sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy.
He was 16, holding her hand. They were wasting all the time they had. They were building big wonders they knew. Time stayed as long as they wanted, remained as much as they needed. The world flies around me with you. Won't you be mine forever? Stay here together, we can nurture each other. Find us another world to be. All the beauty we'll see. Won't you sing me a song and take me among the flowers? We'll grow, we'll conquer the world. These feelings will remain with me. She was 15, spinning in a daydream, waiting, counting and wishing for that ship to sail them away. Can't you see it's coming, shining in the distance, beaming, leaving our reason behind. Let's be here and stay. Let's stay here forever, be here together. We could nurture each other, find us another world to be. All the beauty nurture each other, find a different world to be. Hope it's beauty we'll see. I'll sing you a song, it's taken so long. The flowers we've grown are standing alone. These feelings have remained with me.
Welcome back to Art.tv and to our last weekend on the Berlin Design Week. Ludwig, what is between us? What's that? Oh, you muted yourself. That's nice.
Something, yeah, I'm speechless. It's a great creation of our team member Elham Hamad. She's from Persia but lives in Ireland right now. And she made this poster for this series we're starting today, Courage and Hope, talking about these two subjects.
And why? Why courage and hope and not, I don't know, no ideas and rain?
These were the first two words came to my mind when I thought about a new project in the pandemic. I will tell you later because we have one of our guests is a part of the origin of this two words, and I'll tell you the story later more.
Yes, we have wonderful guests, and we had it last week. It's here, and she's back. Professor Dr. Melodena Stephens. Hi. You have muted yourself, so we cannot hear you at the moment.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
You're still in Dubai, don't you?
I am still in Dubai.
And how was your day today?
A good day. Today is Friday. Today is the start of the weekend.
And in Dubai, we have now 23 minutes past 10. So what are you normally doing at this time?
Sleeping.
And on the other
Way
side...
past my bedtime.
Yeah. On the other side, we have another guest. Hey, Natyra. Nice to see you.
Hello.
And...
Nice to see you too.
Yeah. Ludwig, last week we had Natyra's colleague in the show, Samuel Joe. And today, Natyra, we see also some performances from the same production like last week, but different scenes. Oh, we cannot wait for that. And they will be very interesting. And how was your day?
My day was very, very busy day. Usually I managed always to have in the university a free Monday and a free Friday to have a nice 4 days of a weekend, but now I don't have that anymore. And now between the online seminars and the ones that are starting to with presence lessons, it's interesting now to see people and to be in a room with more than 5 people.
So how was your pandemic time? It's not changed, but how was it for you? Was it a very bad time, or could you do something, produce something?
Well, I think for every musician, but I can only speak for myself. It was quite a difficult time when you are denied to practice what you are trained for and to play in concerts. And when you take that away, for me, it was a lot of time to reflect, I guess, on what I do musically and how I express myself, and to think of other ways except of playing live. So that's why I turned to improvisation and visuals, and that manifested itself with this project that we were lucky enough to go to Hamburg and to record it.
And Ludwig, you want to talk with these two women about our weekend motto, courage and hope. And what did you expect for today's show?
Me, it's I expect to have a really nice talk in a great atmosphere. It's a new try to maybe get some also meaningful content in the air, and I think in these times we need a lot of courage and hope, and that's why we want to talk about this.
Oh, there's some music coming through. Natyra knows where it's from. Why is it coming inside? I don't know.
Started already the show, the music.
Yeah, the performance was there. Oh, so for all you out there, let me shortly interrupt this situation. You have the possibility to call us here in the show during the next 1.5 hours. If you have any questions or you want to say something to our guests or to us as the hosts. And you you have also the possibility to join us in YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, and write down there some comments, questions, whatever you like, and you can be part of the show. And you see, you can join like Moving School with this comment on Facebook, and yeah, so be a part of it and have fun with us. Yeah, Ludwig, and please.
Okay, yeah, Moving Stories actually is a child of Moving School. So Moving School started almost 10 years ago as a friends project to do workshops with people who want to know more about the gifts and talents they have. And for the time being, we are doing this job for the University of Kassel for all departments to bring students in a situation where they can decide what they want to work about and follow an idea, develop this idea, and implement it. So they have the full circle from, finding an idea and then bring it into life. So we have a lot of very different projects during this time. And during this time in Kassel, I came to know Natyra, who I want to talk to now. She was studying at the time at the music academy in Kassel. And Natyra, you are from the Balkan originally, from Kosovo. Where about in Kosovo are you from?
I was born in a city called Gilan, which is an hour away from the capital Pristina, but then we moved to the capital after the war.
Mm-hmm. So you already have memories to the war, obviously?
Well, I have some memories, but in a more childhood memories, because I didn't really grasp the concept of war, of what was happening around me. I thought this whole thing that we're staying in the basement is kind of a play that we're doing with everybody, and there were shootings happening outside of our home because we were living quite central, and the school was bombed where I used to go, and the kindergarten and the supermarket, and I just had the problem that it was too loud and I couldn't sleep, and I was not allowed to play my piano, so I had those problems.
What was that like what your parents told you? It's a play, or was that your perception at the time?
It was my perception, because sometimes children build these kind of little houses in the room, and they live there. And for me, it was kind of like that. Like we're all together in this really tiny space. And my mom was cooking a lot of bread, and we were eating a lot because there was not much to do. So in a way, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, children, are in a different situation in war times, and obviously for you, it had not too many bad aspects, maybe at that time. But
at that time, no, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But later,
it was just exactly later where I was supposed to go to school afterwards, where everything was just building and it being improvised, and that's where I started to see the impact that war has, and I still feel that.
Mm-hmm. So in what year did you come to Kassel then?
I moved to Kassel for my bachelor studies in 2014.
Mm-hmm. And you were the piano class, right?
Yes, I studied instrumental pedagogy, and piano as my main subject, but also conducting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the time we came to know each other, and she was part of our team at the time, and we had some nice celebrations here in the flat together with colleagues, and even Samuel Cho at the time was there. You were playing my piano, and I was really surprised. It was not long ago that I came to know what you are doing now with this electronic or visualization. And I was really, I liked it a lot, because usually I find that people who study classical music, I find they're in a way, I mean, maybe it's wrong to say stuck in it. I mean, it's also, if you have, perfection, that's okay. But to be open also to new forms of other music, or even other forms of performing. So that's really cool that she's doing that. What did you bring to this other form of performing?
In a way, you're right, because when you study classical music, you tend to always remain in it, because it's a very, if I may say, very hard craft to learn. And you're never done. You're never done piece. After 3 or 4 years, you're gonna play it again, a piece from Beethoven, and then you play it in a concert, and then somebody says, yes, but Beethoven had different. Everybody has their own vision of interpretation, exactly, of how Beethoven should sound, especially Beethoven in Germany, and it's a never-ending work. But I started to feel this need of creating something from my own, and I love classical music. I play it all the time, but I had a feeling like I have to escape a little bit from this so that I can even understand it more. Where does this come from? Because all these pieces that are written, they were improvisations, but written down. So that's why I started to improvise more, especially free improvisation, which doesn't bound to any scales, and just combine different things that I've learned. So that freed me a lot, and also gave me I was dealing a lot with stage fright all my childhood and also later. So when I performed the clips that we're going to see today, it was the first time that I felt excited to play.
Wow. That must be really an amazing moment. I mean, that's usually we don't think about that, I mean, somebody goes on the stage, performs excellent, and looks very, not easy, but it's, you wouldn't think somebody has, fears to go on the stage, and then if you do that for such a long time. And what were the reactions of your colleagues? Because that's rarely done. What are you doing then?
Well, musicians are also actors in stage. We have to make it seem that it's super easy, even though we work in a 3-minute piece for 3 months. So when I started to improvise, there's still some dogma around improvisation that everything that other music, whatever music you play that is not classical, it's not worth in a way. Yeah. But that's, of course, when you're really into classical music and you don't listen to any other music, which it's, in my opinion, a false way to deal with music. You have to be open to everything, any music whatsoever, every rhythm patterns. And this was also one of my problems with the educational system in Germany, that it's super Western concentrated. We don't talk about Indian rhythms, which are super complex and are so interesting. We don't talk about these. So I want to incorporate all of this in the improvisation. So when the visuals happened, that we combined these two mediums, I got really, really good replies from professors here in Munich, and I also started to lead an improvisation group in the university, and we are working with the visuals, and it's been really amazing.
So you bring some fresh wind into the scene in Munich, and with your teaching.
Hopefully, because it's very traditional.
Yeah, Munich. I mean, it's Bavaria, you know. But that's great. I mean, things start small, and maybe in a few years you're a professor of improvisation. How did you get to visuals? I mean, some people, you know, play and they have a dancer, or you know, with other musicians, but to combine it with visuals, how did that happen?
It was quite a spontaneous thing. Samuel, my colleague, who is also a part of this project, he is also a musician, a really brilliant pianist, and he is also from nature a very curious person. And I was seeing that he was doing these kind of visual codings and posting it on Instagram and Facebook. So I was really amazed by the work that he was doing. And there was this competition in Hamburg last year that I really liked the idea, because I don't do any more competitions with classical music. I don't see the sense of it. But this competition was a bit different. It was not, you have to play one piece from Bach, one piece from Beethoven, but it was anything but classical music. And I actually liked the hashtag that they had. The hashtag was nicht für Elise.
Nicht für Elise, not for Alice.
Yeah, and so I write to someone, I say, hey, we should do something experimental. And he was, no questions asked. He said, yes, let's do it.
That's great. So we will see, in a short time we will see it. But I wanted to. So Sam is he Chinese, or is he born in Germany?
Sam comes from Brunei.
From Brunei. Okay. Wow. Okay. Because he looks a little bit Chinese to me, and I just wanted to get a bridge to today's theme, courage and hope, because today, 32 years ago, on the 4th of June in 1989, what happened was weeks before, on the Tiananmen Square in Beijing, there were 100,000 of students protesting for more democracy and freedom. And some may remember that in the night then of the 4th of June, the military came with their tanks and guns and killed so many people. We don't know how many, maybe thousands of it. And actually 3 weeks after that, I was in a conference in Hong Kong, and this city was under shock, and you could see in all the windows in the shops these pictures of these bloody bodies lying on the ground. It's interesting that today's Chinese young people, they don't know this event because it was covered, you know, immediately when they were like removed. Nobody talked about it anymore. So that's how you influence history. And tonight I saw on the news one of the student leader at the time, and interesting thing, he said that dictators fear people who have hope. Yeah, because even in Hong Kong today, there were people who were carrying a candle in memory, and immediately police come. They, you know, are afraid of candles. They are afraid of people who hold them. They're afraid of hope, and it shows that. So we are. That's why I come to this topic of courage and hope today, because also we are in a difficult situation for 1.5 years, has threatened our lives, but in a different way, of course, than in this violent act at the time. But nevertheless, many people are, you know, frustrated. They lost their job or relatives and so on, difficult situation. And I want to talk a little bit more with you and later also with Melodena. In this situation as a musician, where do you need hope right now as in your profession? What do you think is where you need to be courageous?
Well, in my humble opinion, courageous, you need to first be with yourself, first of all, and also with new ideas, I think, because sometimes you get into kind of a conflict with your own self when you want to do something different, because you tend to always go to this comfort zone and just to go with the flow and the other people and not do something that is going to change the system. And I think it's in all of us, the power in all of us, to be more courageous about things that we like and we don't like. But this is maybe a more broader theme that has to, you have to be careful about it. You know, if you just think about political correctness and so many other things that are shaping this way of how you express yourself. And I think either way, you should, if you work for something and if your heart is in the right place, you need a bit of this courage to show that and to share that with other people, because you might relate to so many other people. Because in this time in the pandemic, I had the feeling like, I'm quite alone here as a musician, not playing concerts. I don't know how to deal with this. But then when I started to reach to other people and be courageous about just telling the truth, and then people started to relate and to say, actually, yes, we're all going through this, so let's go through it together.
So you started this actually in the pandemic, this new path, right?
Yes, it happened during the pandemic. Yes.
Yeah. Can you describe when you said, because I think that's very common, that first of all, the courage we need against ourselves or against these limiting beliefs we have, how to get over it? Because when you think of doing something new, you're maybe afraid, or as you said, what will the colleagues say, or maybe you yourself feel uncomfortable. What helps you to take courage in this situation?
Well, when I think courage, I think of perseverance. There's this really wonderful book from Angela Duckworth, I think, about grit. And these are different personality traits that are very helpful when you want to achieve something. So it's not just courage in itself, it's a combination of different personality traits, which you have to persevere, you have to do your work, you have to be quite versatile. And courage in itself, it's a nice thing, but it's not enough to really go through that wall.
Okay, so and the other word we talk about tonight is hope. So in what way also, or what is your hope for the future? What is your hope for the time after the pandemic?
Well, the hope is, I think, because I come from Kosovo and I was grown up with this kind of hope idea of very basic things, hope to have opportunities, hope to see better days and stuff like that, in a place and a generation of my parents or my grandparents. They had hope to live another day, which is quite basic. And here in Germany is, of course, a different type of other problems. But I really hope that there are going to be good things coming from this pandemic. And creative ideas that is just going to give us a push, not just creatively, but also socially, because we really need that.
Do you have something in mind what you hope for? Something specific, or it's just a general wish you have?
Well, I hope my personal hope would be to be able to give live concerts soon.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Now, I remember when you said hope to have opportunities. I mean, because I remember that at the time, I mean, to come to Germany is difficult, you know, can study, get a place to study or have the money to study here on all these things. And that's true for many countries. You know, I know people in Iran, so many of them have no opportunities there, you know, no work, they study, but nothing is happening afterwards. I think that's so. So hope is do you think it's a driving force, or because recently as somebody said to me, oh, kind of this word is not for me very active. What do you think about that?
Well, we have a saying in Albanian that hope dies as the last resort. So
Yeah.
I think also I grew up with that in mind, that if everything else fails, then there's always hope. But that may have led to underestimate hope and to really understand what it really means. I think it's something, a little flame that keeps you alive and drives you even when things are not going great.
Yeah. I remember that you, for a long time, you were ill. You couldn't really study in a good way. What did you have hope at the time? Was it difficult to have hope in such a situation?
Yeah, during my bachelor studies, I was confronted a lot with this, trying to really take the whole culture of Germany and integrate in it as best as I can. But then coming from such a small country, and everything was just so confusing. I'm a very highly adaptive person, but still, it was very hard to get in and to understand and to be able to communicate properly. So hope wasn't there for me at the time. So maybe that was the problem, because I really thought in many cases that I am the problem. I should adjust myself, you know. But then I started to understand different aspects of the culture and different aspects of my culture. So hope flourished again, I guess.
So it was part of the reflection that you understood something about your situation, that hope could come up again.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Thank you for now, and we'll hear now this very nice composition of you both, and enjoy this new path you just started.
Thank you very much. And Natyra, one question to the video we will see in a few seconds, because people maybe didn't saw the first scenes a few days ago when your colleague was here in the show, Samuel Chong, and what kind of production this was, where it was, and it was during the pandemic, or?
Yes, it was during the pandemic in November 2020, and it was part of this competition in Hamburg, Debut, on which we could play anything. So we combined free improvisation, a synthesizer, and visual coding, and we started to fill this room to make this kind of sounds that will interact with the visuals, also visuals with the music, and it's just an exploratory audiovisual performance in which you can see and hear and experience in your own way. The project was called Skin, Beneath and Beyond, because we really wanted to go inside the skin. In the last scene that we're going to see, we have the heartbeat as the last resort until we go inside. I would recommend, of course, for the viewers to hear the two performances with headphones.
Thanks. We see in a few seconds the sparkler. I will show you a comment from Rachel. I'm sure you know her, and she's happy to be here. And
yes.
and Rachel, please stay, because after this fabulous song performance we now see from Natyra Elize and Samuel Cho, the sparkler, we will be back in 8 minutes. Enjoy it. A great piece of art we saw, and I cannot wait till the end of the show and we see the next performance called Heartbeat. Yeah, thank you very much, Natyra, and also to your colleague Samuel Joe. And before we start further on, I can tell all the people out there, please, if you like, if you have any questions or you want to celebrate this performance as well, leave down your comments and you can be part of the show. Also, if you like, you can call us here in the studio and be there, and so we can talk here again. So I have to take this camera at the moment because I have to bring Melodena back into the studio. So for a minute, please talk together.
Okay. Yeah, I liked it. I liked it very much. It's when I was sitting like in your concerts in Kassel, and you played the piano. Anyway, I have pictures. I see something in my mind. So now it's this kind of other level you're producing, and that's really neat. I like it. Thank you very much.
Actually, as you were in one of the concerts, I don't remember which one was it. I think I played Bach, a very short piece, And then you were in the public. I don't know if we knew each other before that or not. And you came after the concert, which I really appreciate when people are moved through performances and they just come and say, that is courageous, by the way. And said, yeah, from all the performances, there was something about your performance that I felt, and that gives me so much motivation to hear and to share that with the public, because of course we do this for to share it with other people. Of course, there are musicians maybe that they just want to make music for themselves, but in the end, I think it's about sharing it. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and the applause is very important, but to hear something also, I think, that people express what they feel when they hear you. It's a step up, I think. Do you hear a lot of when you play from other people?
You mean if I hear from a public?
Reactions that tell
Reactions.
you, yeah.
Yeah, I had very different reactions with my performances, from critiquing me on my performance up to the point of crying because of my performance. So it's either way, it's nice to hear that even if it wasn't that good, that awake something inside of them that they hate to share it, and even if it's good or bad. So it's so good.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And today's motto for all the people who are joining us during the performance, they can see it here. We are talking the next 3 nights about courage and hope. And Ludwig was talking with Natyra about her meanings about this topic. And now we are happy that Ludwig is also talking with our other guest. Here she is.
Yes, welcome, Melodena.
Melodena Stephens. She's at the moment she's living in Dubai, and you're welcome.
Thank you.
We have seen you last week with your keynote on entrepreneurship, and I think that was very good to have also for the future in our library, because you made it very hands-on, very important small steps to know about. And that's what we liked very much. Today, I wanted to talk to you, and you agreed about these 2 words. And the story is that actually in the beginning of the year, I was frustrated because almost all last year I couldn't work, because the way we work in moving school is very much moving around and being in small groups, using material. So, what do you do when you have to go online? So one night we talked together, and I told you, that this is really bothering me, and that I was thinking of a project, but I wasn't really sure what to do. And then you asked me, so what words come to your mind if you think of about the pandemic, right? And that was really 2 words, courage and hope, which came to my mind. And then you said, yeah, there you have your project. Easy as that. And then you left me with this.
And
so
you did an awesome job.
That's why you have to be here tonight to start this also with us. These courage and hope, does that play any role in your research about innovation or entrepreneurship, or is it just a philosophical concept which is not really used much?
On research, I do a lot on entrepreneurs, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs have both courage and hope. But I also did some work on refugees, and you can see that theme playing out very strongly, right? Whether they're moving from one country to another to start life again, or they're facing an uncertain future and they hope for a better future for their children. So I think it's very much there in research. I think I embrace it in life. I think that's more important, right?
And what did you find out with the refugees about courage or hope?
Oh, so some of the work was just collecting stories, but why people left their country and moved to another country in a journey that was dangerous. I think it takes courage, but at the end of it, they had some hope that there was a better future. Isn't that what hope is all about? That tomorrow is going to be better than today? So I think studying their lives, and I have researched a lot of people's lives. It's not just refugees. I think even entrepreneurs. Many of them reach a point where they feel like they need to give up. And I think that's the courage. You have so much of fear in a situation and you feel there's no way to move and you still find the strength to move forward. That takes courage. Sometimes it takes courage to know what is not working and to accept a situation. That's also not easy. So I think courage is really about overcoming whatever fear you have. But hope is about something better on the other side, and that is a motivator. It helps you find the strength to move forward or to live whatever hardship you're going through today.
And is like talking about courage, is like an entrepreneur, is it a special type of human being who is very courageous, or if you look at these people, are they have their similarities, or are they really also very different?
I think everyone has courage. I've not met anyone who doesn't have it. I think when the right circumstance is there, you can tap into that well somewhere deep down inside of you. So it's not that you don't have it, but it's a choice you have to make, that you're going to overcome your fear and step forward, even though you don't know what's on the other side of that, step, whether there's solid ground there.
And do you remember, like from your early years or growing up, where you needed to use that courage for some decision or thing to do?
So I was one of those childs you call third culture kids, moved around a lot of places, and I think moved to US, came back to India, and I remember one little story. So when I think I was maybe 8 or something like that, and we decided to move back to India. And my father decided we were going to spend 2 months on the Eurail in Europe. And I was little, so my brother was a baby. So my mom and dad were carrying him around. And we were doing like 3 days in one city, moving to another city, moving to another city. So all I knew was I had left US and that was my home. And now I was going to India and I did not know where my home was in India. And I really did not even remember which city I was. So they ran down to get into a train and they forgot that I was little and I couldn't run as fast as they were. And they jumped into the train with my brother and the train doors closed and I got left.
Oh, we lost her again. The train went without.
We wait a few seconds. Normally the internet connection will come back soon. If so not, we use the moments to tell the people out there that they can still join us. And if you have any questions to Melodena or to Ludwig or Natyra and her music, you can join us on the comment function on the social media. And she's back.
Okay, I left you all on the platform.
Yeah.
You get shocked again.
We stopped the train and you jump on it. So we will listen you further on.
So I could see my parents inside the train behind the doors, but they could not open it. They were trying desperately to open it and the train went away. And I thought, I don't know where I am. I don't know what address I have to go. I'm lost. And an old man came and took me by my hand. And he asked me to come with him. He didn't speak the language. In my head was this thought, I'm getting kidnapped, you know. But I went with him. I mean, I went with him in the train. He took me in the train to the next station because he kind of figured my mother must have got down, and my mother was there. So that was not really a story about courage or hope. I think that was a little bit of me being foolish. But the funny thing was, my mother then, my parents said, you got to keep up with us. And if you get lost, stay there. Don't go anywhere else. So we continued, and the same thing happened. So I was walking behind. They asked me to walk in front of them rather than walk behind. So I walked in front. And then they decided to go into a store, and they forgot I was in front. So the same thing happened again. I was lost. This time I was a little bit more smarter. I did find them back again. But the point I want to make is, you're sort of, your life is a series of events. And I think these series of events shape your character in some ways. And maybe in some ways you get your strength from them. So I love your music, and I think maybe your music comes from some things and some experiences in your past, Natyra. But I think all of us have these experiences, and what we do with them is our choice. So we can choose to make something of them, and maybe also spread some sort of light for others and give them some hope and courage, or we could just let these things go and disappear.
And I think right now, like when you look at your country, you still have relatives in India. There's a lot of courage and hope needed right now. What do you hear from home at this point?
So it's a difficult situation. I think things are as bad as you see or hear in newspapers. So my father-in-law actually died of COVID, very similar situation. I think not enough oxygen. By the time they got him to the hospital, it was a little bit too late. But what I can say is amazing number of people came to help, and people on social media. So where you didn't find help, people came and helped. And this is really tough in a situation like that, because sometimes even neighbors don't want to help. They're also scared that they will fall sick. So difficult situation where you feel you can be isolated. And a lot of us feel helpless. Staying in another country and you're unable to help loved ones, you feel helpless. But I think we're all blessed. At least we have life and we can help each other. I don't know how many people are suffering right now with COVID because they feel lonely or lost, or they're, just, it is overwhelming. So we must do whatever we can to help each other.
So do you see, like from the expats, some initiatives or things done from outside? Do you hear anything about that?
So a lot of people are putting things together. I think it's money, or they're trying to get oxygen at that point. I have colleagues who have gone to India, and they're realizing there are a lot of people who aren't even able to earn their daily wages, because you see, India has a lot of poor people, and many of them make their money by daily wages. So whatever they work for that day, they get paid for that day. So for them, they're struggling. So I was just talking to a colleague who's in India right now, and he says that he's actually trying to provide meals. So there's a lot of good work. There are a lot of good people. But it's a tough time, not just in India. I think the world over. We have this in Italy. We have this in Germany. So it's just been going around. I think now India is facing the brunt in its neighboring countries too, and South America also.
Yeah. We talked the other day. We talked to a friend in Ecuador, and she's also out of work. They have no social net, no health insurance. So, and you have to pay your rent. Where do you get your money then? Do you think that like the new entrepreneurs will be touched by these new challenges? Last Saturday we talked to Professor Alfred about this, deep and shallow innovation. So what are we putting our energy in to create? Do you see there's an interest on young entrepreneurs in this kind of fields to solve problems with social businesses?
Oh, yes, plenty. I was very surprised at the beginning of COVID. I think Estonia, even Germany had done a hackathon, and a lot of brilliant ideas came out from that. In fact, at that point, they were talking about vaccine passports, and today we're actually speaking about vaccine passports 1.5 years later. So there is a lot of work. I think there are a lot of young people who have been touched and want to use that energy positively. So definitely, the challenge with anything that you do, especially with innovations, is the staying power. And that's a lot of the work that I do, because impact sometimes can be short term or it can be long term. We need to be very careful, especially in today's world, that the impact is long term. And the story that I always like to use is this one of Kenya. A couple of years back, I went and visited Kenya. And the place that I was in was very rural, so there was no electricity lines, no power. The roads weren't really done very well. But I saw all the people wearing these beautiful Western clothes, jackets and suits and things like that. But they were poor. So I asked the taxi driver, I can't understand this. It makes no sense. They're wearing, it looks like the latest of Western clothes, but there's no electricity and they seem to be poor because they're always asking for money. And then he said, this is funny because container loads of clothes used to come out of Europe and US, the Western markets. And because the clothes were coming in containers, they were being, sold like they would come in the tons. So their price was much cheaper than the price of the clothes in the retail stores. So when the customers started buying these clothes that were donation clothes, they stopped going to the retail stores closed down. When the retail stores closed down, then what happened was nobody was buying from the cotton farmers and they lost their livelihood. So, when we do good, sometimes we do it with the right intentions, but in the long term, it could have a negative impact. So it's so important for innovations to consider that.
And are there means to find out? I mean, because sometimes if it's new what we do, we don't really know. Is it a way to research about that?
The more people you speak to, I think that's very, very important, especially the community that you want to impact. I think that's critical. But more importantly, I think just awareness. I didn't know till I actually went to Kenya that the clothes that I give might end up there. So that was news to me. It was a bit shocking also. And now I think, again, it's so easy, you to clean your cupboard and think you're doing good and we feel good, but maybe the solution is actually buy less.
Yeah. So, and now in your life right now in Dubai or in the situation you are in, what do you have anything where you self need to be courageous, or where are you challenged and you need to take courage to do it, get over it?
Right now, I think no. Well, every day for me is always about. So one of the things that I think that's so important is trying to do the right thing, and I think that requires a little bit of courage to actually speak out when you feel something is wrong. This is maybe in the research that I do. So choosing an area that right now I'm doing a lot of work on artificial intelligence, for example, and trying to understand how it can be used for good, but also where are some of the areas that are caution areas, So we talk a lot about that. That's one area. In my teaching, I always believe every student has something spectacular that they can contribute. So sometimes my courage is actually the courage that pushes students to have courage in their own abilities, I feel sometimes, because sometimes they get stuck and they think, I can't do this. And you're like, no, you can. And I can see that you have the potential. So that's something that's there. But also personally, I mean, for me right now, it's sometimes a little bit hard when your parents, family. I have children that are in US, I have parents in India. So when your family is all around the world, you sometimes feel a little bit lost because you don't have that safety net, and that's a little bit hard too.
Yeah, and I think that's true to a lot of people in the globalized world, and that even internet is not enough for that. That's do you have any notion to change something on that? That's you can better live with that, or is it like you have just to take it as it is?
I think there's very little I can change in the situation, so you have to accept it. But one of the things that was really tough for me was my parents weren't very comfortable with a lot of the technology that was out over there. So I was very fortunate. Maybe a month back, I was able to go, but it was only a month back. So that was quite some, time after COVID started. But go back, set them up with technology, teach them things like how to use Zoom and things like that. So it was a little bit hard because when COVID came in, I think we assumed because the younger generation can go entirely online, that maybe that was the same speed that the older generation could, and not everybody was able to do that. So that was a challenge.
You said you're encouraging the students, and you expect that they all capable of something spectacular. Do you feel that this positive view is encouraging them in itself, or what is the impact of such an attitude towards your students?
So I think the first time they reach that, they're not very sure that they can, so they're a little bit upset because they feel I expect too much. But the funny thing is, you walk with them along their journey, and perhaps that helps them get the courage that they need to keep moving forward. So I've seen a lot of change in students. I think of students always. I was a student, so let me tell you this story. So because I lived in US and then I moved back to India, one of the things I struggled with was language, so I had to learn the local Indian language. And I loved to talk, to give speeches, elocution. We used to have competitions on that. This was something I loved to do, but every time I stood up in class and I spoke, I had this funny accent. So it was something that wasn't very conducive to winning competitions in that case. And I tried. So I remember I came in, and I think in the 9th grade, I tried in the 9th grade, I did not win. In the 10th grade, I decided I would try again. So I was one of those people who kept trying again and again and again, even though most people would have said, sit down, give it up. But I had a teacher there, and she was teaching me French, and she said, okay, so now you have an accent. Let's figure out how we can use this to your advantage. And she had me learn a piece by Mark Twain. And it was a particular story where it was the American who was abroad. So he went to France. So I had to do an American accent and a French accent, which was easy to do, comparatively. And I won the competition. I didn't think I would because I was so sure. Exactly. I was so sure I was going to lose, but I actually won. And that experience stayed with me. That everybody perhaps has an opportunity to be spectacular. We just need to find the right way of leveraging the strengths that they have. And I think my role or my job is just to help the student discover what their strengths are and to leverage it in the best possible way.
Yeah, that's what I'm totally in line on what we want to do in Moving School, and we have seen that is really very rewarding, for the teacher, but especially for the student who finds their talent. But I would like to know, how do you do this? Because like many parents say then to their kids, like, yeah, you can do it, try, try harder. But I think it is not that simple. I mean, how do you encourage them to go on and believe in them? Do you follow something you could share with us?
Well, I think every child is different and every parent is different.
No, I'm not talking about child, about students, I mean,
Students,
to encourage students to really believe that they have something in them.
So I always start with what do they want to be later on in life. So I think that's the starting point. If I have a good idea of what their aspirations are, then I have some sort of way of linking it to what we're doing. And that's the starting point. The challenge always happens if they don't know what they want to do, then it's a whole self-discovery journey. One of the challenges which we have is always in our system today, and I love that Natyra actually talked about education, because unfortunately we look at students and we look at grades. I don't think grades are necessarily the final indicator of how talented you are, how smart you are, how intelligent you are, or how capable you are to change the future, right? So that's the sad thing, and that's but the system is like that. I don't have a choice as a teacher, because at the end of the day, I have to give a grade, and it needs to be fair to the other students in the class. But long term, I do hope that we will fix and find a better system that actually recognizes each child's potential, as opposed to making the child fit into a sort of fixed standard that they need to go and achieve.
And is there any example or story comes to your mind where you were surprised or could help a student to thrive and discover something special in them?
Oh, I have so many stories specifically, but I'm trying to think of one.
No.
I have a lot. I mean, if you look at my LinkedIn page, you'll see quite a few students who have actually written on that. I think most of them came on with a journey, and it was a step-by-step process where my teaching philosophy is try to spark a love for learning. And I think that's your teaching philosophy too, because if they love learning, then they will go on and succeed in life, especially in today's world. There's so much information on the internet. I think Ludwig, you and I are much older. We grew up with books, and our knowledge was only confined. That's compliment to you, Stefan. You want the old phone, not the mobile. But we grew up with books, right? I remember if you couldn't find it in the encyclopedia, you couldn't find it. Today it's Wikipedia and so much more. So if somebody really falls in love with learning, they will learn no matter what, and they will find the solution. Because you can also network. Experts are there, right? You can connect on LinkedIn, on Twitter. You can find people from all over the world, which we couldn't do. We had to write a letter, and it would take, 3 months, 2 months, 1 month to come back. So life is different right now. And I think when we need to change the way we teach simply because of these reasons, and focus more on making students fall in love with learning.
Yeah, there we are on a very important point, because falling in love. Can you make somebody fall in love? I mean, if I meet a woman and I'm not feel the spark, how can I fall in love? I mean, what is your work in that to give them that? Because falling in love is more something random.
So I'll give you a small example. I do a lot of mind mapping, which is the creative side, right? So the students who love creativity actually enjoy mind mapping. They love the colors. They love the disorganized, perspective of, drawing, painting pictures. But then I have the engineers and the students who like finance, and they hate it because for them it's all about sequences and logic. So one of the challenges in mind mapping for me was, can I also do it sequentially or use logic to go and explain the same thing? Because I was talking to two different categories of people. And then I found there were tools available that actually you could go and, put things in sequences. So it was a learning experience for me also to try and adapt to different students' needs and help them then fall in love with the concept to understand that. So I think it's a lot of work. I think our role becomes facilitation. But very much like falling in love, you need to have something in common. So if I'm going to speak a language that they don't even understand, then I think I've lost them over there. So that ability to find examples that they can relate to make it relevant to their aspirations, that's how you start getting them to fall in love with the topic.
Great. Yeah, that's great. Okay, let's talk finally about this hope. I mean, what's your hope? I mean, you talked a little bit about in terms of education, what you hope about education. What is your hope about the future or after pandemic to happen?
Oh, I would love to say life goes back to normal and I can travel back to Germany and visit around the world, isn't it? Yeah, I think so. I have two children, and surprisingly, right now, one worries about what the future will look like. My hope is that they will have a future that is clean, healthy, and safe, right? And it's not just them, it's everybody in the world.
So you think a lot of your children, of course. I mean, that's understandable. Yeah. Thank you so much. That was really.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for your exposure, and I think it's also what Natyra said. It's maybe giving us new thoughts and questions. So our format here is interactive. So we really would love to have some comments from the audience. Or somebody calls, so please use your fingers and voice if you want. Maybe tell about your hope and courage you have right now. Would be also interesting to know.
Yeah, and you can do that under the comment function of YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. And we bring you into the show and want to hear what you think about our weekend topic. And now we go back to our guests. Natyra, what do you think about all the things Melodena said? Do you have contact to other students, like in your home Kosovo? You have been there already during the last month?
Yes, I've been in Kosovo in December, and it was really interesting actually to hear the talk about that, because I am also still a student, and it was quite a different experience to be studying during the pandemic. And as much as you want to stay positive and to be creative, it was very difficult to maintain that. And I even had one of the professors here in Munich. We were just talking about the whole situation, and he said, I wouldn't like to be a student right now, to be studying during a pandemic. And me, if I would be 3 or 4 years ago, I would probably be very unmotivated and accept that. But in the other way, I was just laughed at the professor and said, Professor, that's very inspiring from you, and have a good day. I learned to go with this kind of negative thoughts of, I mean, what is the sense of saying to a student, I wouldn't study in this time? Actually, is that if I could not have concerts, I don't see the point of studying at all. And I mean, it's so important that professors have this kind of thought of themselves, of the when they studied it was different times, and now it's different times. We have a lot of we have internet, we have much more ways to connect, we have more everything that I want to know, it's in my pocket. But that could be also overwhelming. It's too much information. You cannot filter anymore as good. So absolutely, education has to change. Otherwise, we don't have focus, and it's for nothing. This whole information is just, we don't get any of it. So I think it's really important that the subject that you talk about.
And do you have the meaning as well that after the pandemic, in so many different parts, like in culture or the musicians or in science, that there will be another step, another development, that people are thinking in a totally other way or have no new ideas? Melodena or Natyra?
That is, yeah, that is a hope. Actually, I had a talk today with a very spontaneous meet with a friend of mine who helped us to do this project, Oliver, and we talked about what now. It was a lot of time. Some people were creative more than others, maybe. Let's see what's going to happen. And since a few days, because of the number that decreased in Bayern, I'm not very informed of how it is in the rest of the Germany, but there's a talk that, concerts are going to be allowed from July with limited numbers. So everybody is jumping to reserve the dates of the concert halls to make concerts. And my hope is that quality work will prevail. Because if we jump now, because we're allowed to do concerts, my friend, he used this word fast food, which is not something that we need right now in any culture. We don't need fast music or fast ideas. So I really like that kind of description. So I hope it's going to be, it's going to be interesting to observe for sure.
Mm. Mm. I'm normally a filmmaker, and I'm talking to other filmmakers during the pandemic, and we talk about the topics because I'm working on documentation, longer term documentations. Like I'm filming in Wales, a documentation about a town who must leave the coastline because of the climate change, and I make a long, over many years, report. And I was talking to other filmmakers, what are the topics after the pandemic? Because my conclusion is that we don't want to talk anymore about the bad things. We want to celebrate the lives. We want to take a look on good ideas after pandemic. So maybe the climate change will be one of this topic who will on the top. And also the ideas who came up, like Melodena said, during the pandemic. And to see the world is coming closer together, that will be my hope I have. At the moment, it's not satisfied, because when I see the vaccination program and how the WHO is saying that vaccination is not going to the poorer countries in the world, it's a little bit less hope for that, but maybe we can reach that point that more positive thinking is coming after the pandemic. So this is what we are talking at the moment. What do you feel it could be in different other science or culture in the same way?
I think we took so many things for granted before the pandemic, right? I assumed always that I could hop onto a plane and fly and meet people, or the only way to, really get to know friends was to do it face to face. And I I realize that's not necessarily true. In fact, I've actually kept in touch with friends a little bit better during the pandemic than before the pandemic. I've also realized I've had to make time for myself. So that was a big, important point that came out, that, you know, sometimes we tend to forget ourselves and put everything else, especially work, in front. But going forward, I hope we get the best of both. We do realize that human connection is important. Online helps us in one particular method. I mean, I would have never met you, Stefan, if we hadn't had this online digital thing like this, right? Or you and I heard your lovely music. So I think there's some fantastic things that I hope we keep, but I hope we also realize that maybe it's very easy sometimes, and I agree with you, there's so much of information, and I think we're running from one crisis to another crisis to another crisis. We become a little bit numb, and we don't know where to focus because there's just too much information and too many people in need. I hope we get better at, you know, figuring out how to help people the right way without getting overwhelmed ourselves. And I think that's going to be what I hope will be in the future the better part of us. We learn from this.
And education is, for me, the last 17 months, it was sometimes I cannot understand the people who don't believe in this pandemic, and stupid things also happen from politicians. Because for me as a filmmaker, it was in January 2020, it was totally clear we get the pandemic because 3 or 4 countries were affected, and we had this Chinese New Year's celebration in front. And so everyone who knows what happened, millions of people are traveling, and today everyone is knowing that. But it was a virus is a really slow thing, not so clever, and you can understand it very well. So you mustn't be really good educated. But the people don't want this kind of knowledge. They don't want it that this will happen with them. So they said, no, I don't trust science. I don't trust politicians. No, I have to go to holidays. I have to go to work. And maybe in the last days we talked a lot of with other speakers about what we have to do for the future, and also with Alfred from Copenhagen, and how we can make the people in the world fit, that they think not only on this generation, the next generation, and also the future generations. I think education must change, and how we change and bring education to the people. And but I hope this kind of show we are doing, and Moving School is doing in so many ways, that can help maybe. What do you think?
I absolutely agree. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So there was one example. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So years back ago, and I remember this, there was this, there's an organization in US called MAD. It was Mothers Against Drunk Driving. So there was a lot of young teenagers who were getting drunk driving and then getting into these horrendous car crashes. And it wasn't just that they were killing themselves, they were killing pedestrians on the road. And one of the mother who started MAD, her daughter died, not because her daughter was drinking, but because somebody, as a drunk driver, hit her child. And they campaigned and they campaigned. And one of the counties, I cannot remember which one, realized that none of this was working, you know, all the education, the talking, the public awareness campaigns. So they changed the law. They didn't want to punish the children who were drunk and driving and put them in jail, because then it becomes a record. But what they made them do was mandatory community service, where they had to work in the morgue and they had to work with those people who died of car crashes. And it was kind of a drastic step, but what happened was those people didn't drink again, majority of them. So I don't know, maybe, climate change, people think it doesn't matter because they don't actually live in places which are affected by that, or they think COVID doesn't affect them because they've not worked in the hospitals and seen the nightmare situation over there and they haven't lost a loved one. Maybe we have to think again about how to educate them gently in ways that exposes them, because it's an education. They aren't exposed to different contexts, so they're not able to comprehend it.
Yeah, similar thing with the racism in East Germany, where not so many foreigners were living. Then you're not exposed, so you have your own thoughts about. I want to take this comment from Diana. You showed us that sometimes you hold on sometimes too long. You hope too long to change something. And that's an interesting point, because we have this in relationships or maybe treatments. You trust one doctor, but he's not the right one. So what is the point to change that? What gives us a good criteria not to hope anymore? What do you think out there?
And out there, we know that you are there, because I see a lot of people on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch at the moment, not that much. Maybe the kids are playing games, who knows? And but if you are on Twitter and Facebook and Twitch and YouTube, you can write down your comments, and maybe you can say, Ludwig, a few words about this question. And at the moment, it's quiet on the comment side, so
they can all fall asleep.
Yeah.
Because actually, I had this today also in a talk. Somebody said, "Yeah, how long should I hope that something changes?" And that's a good question, especially if you're in relationships, you don't see change, or maybe in a workplace, you said it over and over again that this is not the way you want to be treated. Because hope is a strong force, and I really plea for hold on to it, because it's really powerful, and it also gives you a creative spirit. But it's true.
Yeah,
I would
Diana,
like maybe to make a little thing about the hope. It's the thing that I don't like how hope is interpreted sometimes. It's the issue of expectation linked to it. Like, I think there should be a distinguish between active hoping and passive hoping, because if you hope that climate change, for example, is going to change miraculously, it's not enough. I mean, we can hope, but also actively making our way, carving our way to realize that goal, and not expect that somehow it's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
and Jihan Shun, alias Rachel, she's writing, I would say, not stopping the hope, it's just changing the goal and living in the moment here and now. Isn't it like that? Yeah, it's another perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it's for like getting making new perspectives, like in a workplace. Some people say, I have no idea what to do if I leave this stupid place. They're afraid because they don't see anything. So I think, first step is to show maybe new possibilities. Also in a relationship, some people don't know how to communicate any longer, and then still people are afraid to go to a counselor, marriage counselor, which, first step they do is just to help them to talk to each other, and then sometimes really big things can be resolved, or it shows, the conversation shows that the differences are too vast. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
Are we
think the
holding on to
discussion
this?
between Diana and Rachel about living in the moment, and I would just to make a really little remark on it. It's a difference between generations, because I see that in my parents' generations and my generation, there's a huge gap. If they were in my age, they were hoping, or maybe they already had a house and kids and a stable job. But when it comes to the younger generation, and that has been already proven, that it is more about living in the moment and enjoying the things that you have right now. And I think with the hoping, you somehow want to affect things that are going to happen in the future. So in the end, we should remember that the only thing that we can control is the now.
Yeah.
yeah, that's totally true. And now you have the chance to join here. It's 7 minutes till midnight in Dubai. Melodena, we are coming now to the end. It was nice to have you here as a guest, and also Natyra and Melodena. Where we can see you and where we can find you, if anyone is interested in these LinkedIn stories you told us, examples. You have a page, or?
Yes, so I'm on LinkedIn, but I'm also on Twitter. So if you do @Melodena, I'm on Twitter. So do follow me. But Melodena Stephens, you'll find me on LinkedIn. Luckily, there aren't many Melodenas.
Yeah, we will put all your contact things from Twitter under the description after this live stream. And and Jihan, alias Rachel, is just writing, hey, we have to do a reset or something. Yeah, reset we do every day here on this live streaming. And to bring you new ideas. And tomorrow, so before we go to Natyra, because now in a few seconds we will see the last scene of the 4 scenes we have seen last week and this week of your very great performance. And Ludwig, what we can expect tomorrow on the show?
Yeah, actually, it's not set yet, because yesterday we didn't get any contact to Zimbabwe, to the director of the National Gallery. So we wanted to try this for tomorrow, but I'm not sure if that works. But I'm sure something interesting will happen. And I mean, the theme is on courage and hope, and it will be always time to talk with the audience, because this is really something nice to hear from everybody. So there's time tomorrow night, and you just follow the Facebook and Instagram. You will see what we're going to do. Be here again at 2021 time of the year.
Exactly, and now it's time for Natyra. The last video is called The Heartbeat, and without a heartbeat, there's no life. Can you say a few words to this video before we start it?
Very shortly, the idea behind this scene, the heartbeat, the whole project was constructed with a live public, and we wanted to build stethoscopes with little microphones in it and go around the public and to measure their heartbeat and to take that as a foundation for our rhythm. It sounded a really nice idea, but we had no public in the end because of the restrictions. So we had to do a synthetic heartbeat. So yeah, this is me playing with a heartbeat.
Okay, thanks a lot to our guest for tonight, and stay healthy, and join us in tomorrow's show if you like, as a viewer. And now here on stage on Art.tv, moving stories, Natyra Elize and Samuel Joe with The Heartbeat. Enjoy it and good night, and we will finish at midnight in Dubai.